Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings. Namaste. Welcome and happy Black History Month. It is February already. It's already February. Wasn't it just Thanksgiving? Breathe. So this month we are diving into that space of discomfort once again. Lessons in uncomfortability is what we will be discussing today. And as we discuss this, we recognize that life, this thing that we are experiencing and engaging in, is full of all kinds of uncomfortability. Yes, that's a new word. I did not create it, and yet it is a word. It is now. Birth itself is a shift from a warm, nurturing, comfortable, safe environment into the external, cold, shocking, terrifying chaos of outside of mother's womb. And it is in many ways that first shock into discomfort that can trigger us into an interesting spiral of pain and discomfort and pain and discomfort and pain and discomfort. And yet we are invited into a space of divine discomfort. Now, just breathe and take that concept in for a moment. Divine discomfort. This thing called life is rather complex, it is complicated, and it is also glorious and magnificent with all kind of nuances as we live, move, and have our beingness in this thing called life on this thing called earth. And one of the things this month that we are giving ourselves an opportunity to be more present to is the idea of Black History Month and the contributions of African Americans, Black people throughout the history of this country, and the levels and degrees of uncomfortability, discomfort, and pain that this group of people have experienced in order to build the United States of America. Breathe. Recognizing that Black History Month is more than just a month, because the history of the United States of America is the history of Black people. It is the history of African Americans. It is the history of people of color. The Chinese who built the railroads, the indigenous peoples whose lands were stolen, the indigenous peoples who were killed, called savages, the Africans who were kidnapped and forced into slave labor, which became the economic foundation of the country. And even today, still from the generational curses of systemic racism, there is much discomfort and uncomfortability still within. So we are recognizing this month by honoring and educating and celebrating, educating ourselves so that we know more about what it means to recognize, honor, and celebrate the contribution of Black people in this country. Breathe. Now, within the grand scope of all of this is not about guilt and shame for anyone, and it's not about that. What it is recognizing that if we are creating a world that works for all, then we must wake up. We must be able to discern what is something that needs to be healed. What is the truth that heals this? What is the truth that we are invited to embody, not bypass or malpractice, but embody and engage in and participate in so that we can change the systemic discomforts that cause the systemic oppression that causes pain and suffering, etc. Now, it's important for us to be mindful as we recognize our own power and potential for life affirming transformation. It's important that we identify and release whatever limiting beliefs, paradigms, concepts that we have. But we can't release them till we identify them. So, once again, identify and release, heal it. And in doing so, we also are cultivating greater awareness. We are engaging in more life affirming practices. Awareness, self awareness opens the door for greater transformation and change. This is why we do not deny, disregard, or malpractice by saying pain is not real. This world in which we live is simply an illusion. It's a matrix. It's a hologram. And whatever you are experiencing, it's not real anyway. Okay, I understand. We're not going down that road. So this year, as we are embarking on a grand rising, it's time to really practice new thought and release the old new thought consciousness and paradigms and practices. As we go on, we are also seeking support, life affirming support from family, friends, community. We are taking inspired, conscious action in order to change ourselves, change the collective, change the systems. Now, it's important to be mindful that even though the title says lessons in uncomfortability, there are no lessons that we need to learn in being uncomfortable. If someone puts a tack in my chair and I sit on it, I'm uncomfortable. But let me sit here and move on the tack and feel the discomfort, for there is a lesson to learn. What? No, there is no lesson you need to learn. Get up and pull the tack out of your behind. Stop inflicting or being willing to have pain inflicted upon you because you believe that there is a need to learn something. We can choose to learn something when things happen, but there is nothing that we need to learn in order to evolve. There is no supreme being that is giving us lessons in order to learn, in order to grow. It's a choice. Schools provide curriculum. CSL provides educational curriculum. And we choose to register and take a class or not. It's a choice. We don't have to take the class. We can go about our regular scheduled programming on any given day. It's no different with this thing called spirituality. We can choose to learn or choose to just go about our business, as many people are doing, both in New Thought and not. So there is no lesson that you need to learn. Growing, while there is a certain level of you are going to grow, but there is nothing that says that growing involves wisdom. How we apply X, Y, and Z is what determines if it becomes wisdom. It's a choice. So what do we choose in this thing called life so that life is more fulfilling individually and collectively, so that life is more equitable individually and collectively, so that life is more loving individually and collectively? Now, as it says on the screen, One of the really important things to be mindful of is that not all change should be embraced and accepted. There are some changes that should be resisted. There are some changes that should be resisted. More on that in a little bit, but keep that in mind. So when you think of discomfort, what does it mean? What does it mean to experience discomfort? What is this feeling of being uncomfortable, feeling uncomfortable? It ranges anywhere from a slight pain, irritation, hurt, and ache, some form of tenderness. Is it not funny that, speaking of words, tenderness, tenderness, love, compassion. He expresses such tenderness towards his little sister. But tenderness is also, it's tender. Oh, this meat is so tender. It's funny how words, nonetheless, uncomfortable. Can one be physically uncomfortable? Well, what about emotionally uncomfortable, psychologically uncomfortable, spiritually uncomfortable? Can you be? And what does that mean? What does that look like? And how do we discern between the discomfort I feel in my biceps and triceps from doing push ups to get stronger is a necessary discomfort because the muscles do what the muscles do to get stronger. There is a necessary discomfort when you burn yourself and instincts pull away from the hot stove. That pain, that discomfort is necessary, it is biological, it is part of the system. The discomfort that comes from, I just broke up. We were together for like 2, 3 years and broke up, and no one's going to ever love me again, and I'm going to be miserable and alone for the rest of my life. And why are you telling yourself those things? Why? Well, it's because that kind of discomfort can be changed. As it says in The Science of Mind via Dr. Ernest Holmes, nature will not let us stay in any one place too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and advancement of the soul. Nature demands the change in order that we may advance. Now, remember what I said. Now, I understand where he's coming from and gotcha. But nature is doing what nature does. And because nature is the nature of all of nature, then all of it would be operating based upon the same natural order, natural law. And nature does not need to learn anything. Nature does not need any part of nature to learn anything. Nature wants nature to simply be what it is. The fullness of, let the butterfly be the fullness of the butterfly. Let the dolphin be the full expression of dolphin. Let the rainbow be the full expression of rainbow. Let each of us be the full expression of humanity, human, that is also an expression of the divine, as is the rainbow, the dolphin, the butterfly, the blade of grass. So be mindful that nature will not let us stay in any one place too long because change is a byproduct of being here. Everything changes. The sun is changing. The phases of the moon, phases means change. Waves It's never the same wave twice. It's all about change. So rather than fighting it, let's step into it, recognize it and be a part of it, and recognize that when we try to resist change, what we are resisting is it's uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. And yet, Dan Stevens says the comfort zone is the great enemy to creativity. Moving beyond it necessitates intuition, which in turn configures new perspectives and conquers fears. The comfort zone is the great enemy to creativity. Why? Because the moment you conform, the moment you are trying to be exceedingly comfortable, you're denying change. Creativity is all about change. Taking clay and creating means it has to change, means I, the artist, the potter, I have to change in order to change it. I have to be willing to participate in change. Changing a blank canvas into a painting, change. Mixing colors, change. Learning martial arts, change. Getting in shape, change. Using ingredients to cook, change. Seasons, change. Clothing, change. Age, change. All of it's change. So if we want to really engage in this creative process and really embody the fullness of what our intuition and all of what it offers, then we must step outside of the comfort zone, be willing to be uncomfortable to create. Whatever it is we want to create, whatever it is we want to manifest, be willing to get outside of the comfort zone. Now, that does not mean, once again, linguistic convenience. We love words. It doesn't mean I should change the temperature of the room to purposefully make myself uncomfortable. No, I want to chill and I want to watch some movies. So I'm going to set so it's a comfortable temperature. That's fine. But when I get obsessed with, when I get addicted to the comfort to such a degree that Tracy changed it 1 degree and now I'm furious. Yeah, then the comfort zone is now an issue. It's now an addiction. I am attached to 78 degrees. So the comfort zone, we are invited to move from comfort to fear, to learning, to growth. And what comes after? What's after? Is there something after the growth zone? Yes, we cycle and again and again and again. It's an ever spiraling, energetic, always in motion. It's never just a straight line. It's like grief. Grief is not a straight line. Grief is a line that goes all over the place and all over the place. And even though we've got the stages of grief, you might go from 1 to 5 to 2 to 1 to 3 to 1 to 2 to 1 to. It's not going to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. So this idea of comfort to fear, to learning, to growth, and on, ever evolving consciousness is always exploring and asking, is there somewhere where I am invited to shake myself, to be uncomfortable, to stretch beyond, to be more of what I am here to be by my own choice, to be the fullness of what I can be, what I choose to be, what I want to be, what I desire to be, what I deserve to be. As Master Yoda invites us, repeat the process, you must. Stuck in cup. He didn't really say this. This is me. It's my Yoda impersonation.
Repeat the process. You must. Stuck in comfort, you do not have to. Stuck in fear, you do not have to. Feel comfort. Feel fear, you will. Align with the force and move. For some reason, I feel like Tracy's laughing. I feel like you're laughing at me right now. That's my best Yoda impersonation. You're making me feel uncomfortable by laughing at me. But as he says, it's repeating the process. All of this is repeating the process, as is breathing, eating. It's all a repeatable process, a repeatable action. That's what life is. And even though it's repeated, it's never the same. It's never the same breath. It's never exactly the same meal. It's never exactly the same day. How many Mondays in your entire life, how many Mondays have you experienced? How many of those Mondays were the exact same Monday? It's the exact same name, at least in this language, it's the exact same name. But even the name changes based upon where you are in the world. Not everybody calls it Monday. Change. So, how do you invite greater, more powerful, more potent energy to step into the fear, to willingly go to that place that you do not want to go, so that you can push beyond the discomfort, so that you can truly live your best life? Emmett Fox says, change is the law of the universe. Without change, the world would not merely remain in a static state, but it would soon become stale and stagnant. Is it not pause? Is it not interesting that we think that somehow if there is no change, things would be cool? It's all good. Stop the river from flowing, it becomes stale and stagnant. Stop the air, it becomes stale and stagnant. It becomes stale and stagnant. Does that work? Stop the emotions. Just be happy all the time. Stale and stagnant. Without change, there would be no progress, for change is the essence of betterment. In some cases, yes, it is. And in some cases, because it depends. Is it life affirming change or non life affirming change? Life denying change. More about that soon. Change in and of itself is simply change. But what's changing and how is it changing determines if it's betterment or worsement. Yes, that is a new word. Today hello Wikipedia, this is Ray, Reverend Ray. I'm creating a new word today and it's betterment. It's worsement. It is the opposite of betterment. I need you to put that in. Thank you. Done. New words. Because that's what we do. We use words, and sometimes we get stale and stagnant in how we're using the words. Change is the essence of betterment. Yeah, and let's put if the change is XYZ, because if it's not this, then it's not for the betterment. More on that in a moment. Speaking of the idea of stale and stagnant, when people get obsessed with the concept of the good old days, they're romanticizing some idea, some feeling, something from the past. Because technically, as Herbert would say, the good old days were never that good, believe me. And if they were good, who were they good for? Pause and really think about that. If the good old days were really that good, which era of the good old days are we talking about? The good old days of slavery, the good old days of women burned at the stake, the good old days of Vietnam? What good old days are you talking about? Because if you're going to say, well, the good old days when gas was 25 cents a gallon, you do realize what went into, first of all, still talking fossil fuels, climate change, the economics of gas and oil. See, it's easy to put the thing in the car and pump the gas without thinking about all of the things that brought it there, all of the lives that brought it there, all of the deaths that brought it there. It's easy. So the good old days were never that good, believe me. The good new days are today, and better days are coming tomorrow. Our greatest songs are still unsung, yet to be sung, if we do the work. If we engage in the process, then better days are going to be if we engage the process. If we don't, then they won't. Dr. Holmes says, I now declare that God is on every step of my pathway. Whatever needs to be done is being done now by the action of infinite mind. Every problem is now disappearing. I see God everywhere, and where God is, no evil endures. Yes, and. If I'm sitting in a math class looking at the pop quiz that was just given to me, and every problem is now disappearing. It is now being done by the action of infinite mind. I'm going to fail the test. Evil continues to endure when good people aligned with principle, and when they do nothing. So where God is everywhere. No evil endures. Well, unless people stand up and do stuff, then the evil of, pick a time, slavery, the evil of slavery would have endured as it was. God was still there, because God's everywhere. So God was there. And God, as Harriet Tubman, escaped from slavery. But slavery endured. Slavery, the evil of slavery, continued. Even while Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass were out of it. And yet Harriet Tubman went back to help free others, But slavery was still a thing until such time as the people in power changed the system. And even in the changing of the outward system, in many ways, the covert, implicit, subliminal consciousness of slavery continued. So the evil endures for as long as it remains unhealed, unchecked, unaddressed. So yes, declare that God is on every step. How could God not be? But let us also embody that step. Let us embody the mental equivalent of infinite mind, so that our thoughts, our words, our emotions and feelings, and our actions mirror this truth. Let us dissolve the problems by dissolving the problems, healing the problem. Because as I said, not all change is a desired change. There were people comfortable on the continent of Africa until some folks came over on boats and kidnapped them. Their lives changed. They were brought to Turtle Island, later referred to as the United States of America. Their lives changed. They were bound and shackled, beaten, lynched. Their lives changed. For the betterment? Well, there are some out there who have the audacity to say yes. And yet we know otherwise. There was this Germany before, and then there was Hitler and the Germany after. For the betterment? Holocaust? For the betterment? Genocide? For the betterment? No, we know better. So not all change is life-affirming change. And do not get it twisted and have some people try to convince you or I, any of us, that, well, we needed Hitler in order to. No, we did not. We needed slavery in order to. No, we did not. Because that is irrational. It is metaphysical malpractice. It is psychological malpractice. It is emotional terrorism to even say that and truly mean it, that people had to suffer and die so that other people could understand what freedom was. Well, they made a soul contract that they agreed to. So they agreed on a soul level, on a karmic level, with the Akashic records and all. I'll be born so that I can eventually be lynched and beaten and feel the pain of drowning in my own blood so that you all can be free. Why? In an infinite universe and with an infinite power and presence, why would that be necessary? Because it's not. Old New Thought would have us believe that it is, but it is not. So our ask is, where are we invited today to be catalyst for life-affirming change? In order to do so, then we also understand that we must actively resist that which is life-denying. Any change that is life-denying, any change robbing women of their body autonomy and rights, any change that is life-denying, we need to resist. This is not a political issue. It is a human rights issue. Children mining for chemicals and ore and whatnot simply so we can have a smartphone. Do we speak up about this? Do we protest this? Do we pray about this? What do we do? Because not all change is life affirming. How do we engage in the healing and evolutionary process to change individual consciousness, the full mental equivalent, and collective consciousness and full mental equivalent? How do we rise up grandly? And it means being uncomfortable. Robert G. Allen says, everything you want is just outside of your comfort zone. It's in the fear, the learning, the growth, and beyond zone. But you got to get out of being comfortable. Or let's say you have to move out of being addicted to your comfort, being attached to, and it's obsessively attached to the comfort in order to. Karina Bliss says, outside of your comfort zone, that is the only place worth living. Simply living in this place of, I'm comfortable, I'm fine. Not a place worth living. Think of the color purple for a moment. The character of Miss Seeley could easily have simply become, she could have easily acquiesced and become comfortable and complacent to the domestic violence. But something shifted, and she realized, I don't have to accept this. I'm not going to accept this. Outside of your comfort zone is the only place that is truly worth living. As the new year continues, we are called to change. Change how we understand the science of mind and spirit. Change how we practice it, how we teach it, how we embody it, and how we live it. Like the study and practice of medicine and science have undergone changes and changes over time, we are called to do the same. This is the only way we are ever going to create a world that works for all. Change. Embody it. Live it. Change. As Dr. Holmes said, I'm not religious science. You are. So now what? Breathe. This is our affirmation, our declaration for the week. I will say it first. And if it resonates with you, say it with me on the second go round. I expand beyond my comfort zone and trust the goodness of the universe to support me. Together. I expand beyond my comfort zone and I trust the goodness of the universe to support me. Breathe. This week's questions. 1. The power of beliefs. Discuss the role of beliefs in shaping your experience of change. How do your beliefs about yourself and others, the world, the systems that we operate within, and the nature of change influence your ability to embrace and engage in new experiences? And yeah, feel free to talk about our experiences. That's fine, but make sure you are also addressing your experience. Number 2, resistance and growth. Explore the concept of resistance to change and its impact on personal growth. How does resistance manifest in our thoughts, in your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors when faced with change? So you're faced with change. Well, how do you know you're resisting? What shows up to let you know I'm resisting taking this class, I'm resisting going to the doctor, I'm resisting whatever, going calling a therapist, I'm resisting it. Do you know that? How do you know that? What shows up? And what kind of things do we tend to resist? Are there certain things that we tend to resist more than other things? And what is actually behind the resistance? What are we resisting? Why are we resisting? What's going on? At the core, what's really going on beneath the surface? I'm resisting getting up and going to the gym. Okay, what's up with that? What's behind the resistance? Well, I'm comfortable here at home because it means getting dressed, it means going out in the cold, it means driving 20 minutes to the gym, and then going into the gym and being around sweaty, smelly folks and people who, prist and preen and do all that stuff and don't clean the equipment. And then once I'm done, 45 minutes or whatever later, then it's back in the car and drive. It's just easier to just stay here. Comfort zone. Is there something else beneath it? Well, I mean, if I really think about it, there's a level of complacency There's a level of low self-esteem that's connected to it, low self-worth. Like, what's the point in getting what okay, why get in shape? You're gonna die soon anyway. What why get in shape? No one wants you, no one's gonna date you. Like, why even worry about getting in shape? For who? Oh, is that what's at the core? Is that what's behind the resistance beyond the cold, the drive? Huh. Let's explore that, right? Like, really go there. And then lastly, conscious choice and transformation. Engage in a conversation about the power of conscious choice in navigating change and facilitating personal transformation. Discuss the idea that change is an opportunity for self discovery and spiritual expansion. Discuss how the absence of choice, per se, can be addressed in our teaching. So, when we say the absence of choice, suppose I live in a food desert. I don't have a choice in, I don't have access to a Whole Foods like you do. I don't have access to a Trader Joe's like you do. And even if there's one, not too, I mean, I could get on the metro and drive, go there. I could get on the subway and go there, but I don't have the kind of economics that allows me to shop there to get organic milk or almond milk, because a gallon of almond milk is $4. A gallon of regular milk is $1.99. Economically, because I can get that and that'll feed the kids. The almond milk will be gone in 2 days, and I won't have the money to get more. So then, when kids are gonna have to eat dry cereal. So, yeah, yeah. So when we refer to people not having a choice, the war, wherever in the world war is right now, because it's in a bunch of places, people may not have a choice to just pack up and leave. So how do we address the absence of choice, or what does it mean to have choice in the midst of absence of choice, whatever that is? How do we talk about that, and how do we address that within our teaching from your point of view? Okay? And breathe, and let's enter into that space of infinite knowing, simply being present to the isness and allness of life itself, knowing that this thing called life is change. Because if God is ever expanding consciousness, ever expanding is change. That the consciousness that is becoming the consciousness that is becoming the consciousness is becoming evermore, 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 never less, evermore. And what it is, each of us must be. There is only it, and it is incarnating in, through, and as us. So we too are the ever expansion of imagination, the ever expansion of love and joy, the ever expansion of creativity, of presence, of our divinity. So as we end this Sunday message, we go forward with the idea and the energy and the willingness to be uncomfortable in order to expand our mental equivalence, to expand our awareness, to expand our practice, to expand the application of our spiritual teaching, to expand and to embody and be the very living demonstration of. And yes, that means there are going to be uncomfortable conversations. There are going to be uncomfortable realizations, and that's fine. Because change, metamorphosis, the phoenix dies and burns itself up, and from the ashes, a new phoenix rises. The caterpillar, once in the cocoon, liquefies itself And the imaginal cells re-engineer a new form. Now, while we may not know what that feels like, I'm sure we can imagine to liquefy and then reform. Sounds pretty uncomfortable to me. Doesn't sound like I'm rushing out to be like, yes, can I be liquefied today and turned into? Doesn't sound like something we're going to stand in line for, and yet it is a divine process. I am willing to liquefy and transform, to release and surrender the old new thought, the old mental equivalent, the old outdated ideas about change and pain and discomfort. I am willing to, in order to, in order to think a new thought and live and embody, to change moment by moment, thought by thought, word by word, action by action, to be more of what God is as me. And I speak this knowing that as I say this about me, it is the truth about all of us in this moment, this thought, this word, this emotion and feeling, this action, more and more what God is as. More and more what God is as. What God is as. And the law says yes. That means it's already answered prayer, and that means it's done. It's already in motion, forming and manifesting. It is already so. Breathe. And so it is. Namaste, much love, much appreciation. See you over in Zoom momentarily.